Vajra Mame Munta Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahom Pe Locho Sampo Pagyu Trashipa Tuche Tempe Trinle Yarngoda Pege Drolo Zambe Zebrache Pande Lame Shabla Solwa De Omo A Guru Vajrada Soma Timonisha San Uta Varda Nyeshri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hong Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Ngam Pakyuke Tudan Dagi Yi Ten Yerme Chiktu Chingi Lu Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Ngam Makyuke Tudan Dagi Yi Ten Yerme Chiktu Chingi Lo Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Soha Sashi Pöge Chukshi Meto Chan Rirav Lingshi Nide Gembadi Sangye Shinto Mikde Ulwarki Drogun Namda Shingla Che Parasho Yidama Guru Radna Mineral Kam Niryata Yami Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sanam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupare Shu Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sanam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupare Shu Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupare Shu
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Haye ke da ludan rejinke druboda da mi kenamdam drowa kuinge dranam chitsampa tamche ke to dagi chöten to tamche ke to dagi chöten to.
This morning, we completed quite somehow fast, but also deeply, we can say. But someone might say, oh, but these are difficult subjects, and that's exactly why we should look at them and why we need to repeat them little by little to assimilate the information more and more. And now we go into the second part of the actual process. Before, we saw that the self-healing practice can be divided into three parts: preliminaries, if actual practice, and conclusion. And we saw the preliminaries that we divided in generating the motivation, accumulating merit, and purification, and asking for and receiving blessings. And the actual practice we divided into two: the generation stage and completion stage. The generation stage can be divided into generating bliss and emptiness, doing the three transformations, and the generation of the body mandala. We've concluded now the body mandala generation with the explanation in relation to the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and also relative to the 5 great mothers. And then we saw how to unite both. Before talking about the next part called the completion stage, talking about in reference to the elements, it's essential for us to understand that we are made up of elements. What happens is it's not about using the elements around us, using the elements for our benefit. We don't possess, we don't own nature, we are part of nature. The elements make us up, so it's essential to be in harmony with the elements. If there is no harmony among the elements, there is no health. There's no physical health, emotional health, mental health. And very often when we talk about the environment and the climate, etc., we talk about economic problems. Often we look at our consumption of the environment, but actually if the environment is not in harmony, if we're not in harmony with the environment around us, then we cannot be at peace, at harmony with ourselves. So this is essential. There's a process of balancing our inner elements, which brings a balance of our body and mind. And if we look at certain medical systems, like the Tibetan one or the Chinese one, there are certain aspects that are very similar. Also, Ayurvedic medicine, the state of health depends on the state of balance among the elements. So, and sickness of body and mind comes from that imbalance of the elements. This doesn't mean exchanging that for medicine. No, it means to be in harmony with ourselves, and then as a consequence, harmony with others. That depends on the balance of the elements, and this comes from our lifestyle, our inner lifestyle, our outer lifestyle. Now we're not going to talk about this subject. Anyway, now let's go beyond, just to remind us. Lama Rinpoche, at the beginning of the 1990s, he started putting a tremendous amount of emphasis on taking care of the environment and the importance of taking care of nature, that we couldn't ignore this fundamental aspect of our existence. He put emphasis on this also through this practice, and the elements manifested themselves in all their beauty as divinities. There's still so much to see, So, and we don't have much time, so let's move forward. The completion stage. The completion stage, which is the more advanced part of self-healing, is a part of the practice that when it is realized actually, it is done silently, it's done, it's an inner subjective experience. But as we used the metaphor of the map right from the beginning, the practice of self-healing is like the map, and we follow the route along in the map. And so I take my steps from where I am, and then I look at the map and I say, okay, and then the next steps are going to be, there's my itinerary, and then I take another step and I look at the map again, so that I create familiarity more and more with the steps that I need to take. So in this phase, the completion stage is divided into 4 parts. And we talk about the term that's used are the 4 empowerments or initiations: the vase empowerment, secret empowerment, wisdom empowerment, and the empowerment and the word empowerment. These 4 empowerments or initiations. There's the vase, secret, the initiation of wisdom, and the word empowerment. The objective in this phase is, 1, to generate even stronger, with more clarity and intensity, an identity of ourselves based on qualities that have been developed to their maximum potential. So we reconnect with the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, with the 5 Great Mothers. We reconnect with their qualities, and we disconnect ourselves from the mental defilements. We reinforce this pure identity, and with this state, this identity where we see ourselves, we recognize ourselves in a state of love and peace and balance, generosity and wisdom, harmony, etc. In this state that can be summarized in love and wisdom, we try to do exercises. We're simulating them. We're not actually doing them. We simulate the process of bringing these virtuous states to a subtle and very subtle level of consciousness. This is what we're going to do. If I remember well, I explained that first day, we talked about the gross, subtle, and very subtle level. I don't know if I gave the example of the sphere. No, I did this when I explained self-healing in Spain last week. Very quickly. Let's imagine a sphere. This sphere has the following characteristics. It has a nucleus from which emanates light. And around there are many, many layers. What appears at each level and then the final level is what is actually emanated from the nucleus, but you see it through the various layers within. There's a characteristic of this sphere. What happens on the more external levels shapes gradually the lower layers, getting to the point where it makes the transformation of the actual nucleus. So what's in the nucleus can be seen throughout every layer, all the way to the surface. And then what happens on the outer layer also gradually transforms the lower layers, transforming the nucleus. So if we want to transform the nucleus, we need to work on the various layers. What's our nucleus would be like our very subtle mind, and the various layers would be our subtle and gross levels. So our behavior on a gross level, the way we interact with others, the emotions that we feel, etc., that gradually transforms and shapes our mind on the various levels, getting to the point where it leaves actual imprints and shapes our very subtle mind. We talked about this. I'm not going to talk about it again. It's a long process. So what's the shortcut? The shortcut would be taking and being able to go directly through the various layers and go directly to the nucleus, and transform and reshape the nucleus. It's said that our mind has a particular characteristic, the two that actually go together. One, as we saw before, is our total incapacity to have two opposing ideas at the exact same time. So if I want to generate, or if I want to eliminate a feeling of hatred, I need to generate an opposite feeling, like love, towards the same object of perception. So what happens is I can have on a conceptual level something, but on an emotional level, on a deeper level, I can feel something else. So to be able to counteroppose a mind that exists on a subtle or very subtle level, I need to find that the opposite antidote on a subtle or very subtle level. I mean, maybe we can, when we work on different levels, one cognitive and the other emotional, it doesn't work. And that's why often it takes a lot of time. We want to work on something that's deeper, something emotional, and instead we're working on a conceptual level. And we have to continue, on that, in that way until it actually goes down to a deeper, more emotional level, and then it can actually counteract that negative emotion, like anger, for example. As we said before, the root of our suffering exists on a very subtle level, and it's mostly of two aspects. It's the obsession of self-grasping, which is selfishness, and the ignorance of seeing reality as being as interdependent. So we need to develop altruism and a consistent view of reality, which would be the realization of emptiness, the lack of inherent existence, a lack of objective existence. But we need to bring these two mental states from a gross level to a subtle level, and then to a very subtle level. What happens is, the other characteristic that is specific to our mind is there are certain processes in life, natural processes, that naturally bring a person to a deeper state of consciousness, where the gross mind, the gross mind becomes it ceases, and then it goes to the more subtle mind. And when that happens, the direction that that subtle mind takes is the same direction that the gross mind had. It's like, for example, what happens if you fall asleep with a specific thought in mind. You have a high probability of actually dreaming of that thing. And this is one of the reasons why, at the time of death, a time when this dissolution on a gross level, and then from a gross level to a subtle level, and then a very subtle level, this all happens, that last mental state, that last thought is crucial, because that's what is going to give direction to the subtle mind, and the subtle mind will give direction to the very subtle mind. And that's where then we take from that very subtle mind to a subtle mind to a more coarse mind. our continuation. So preparation for death, one of the things that's crucial is being able to generate a state of peace, of calm, of joy, of love, of balance. This is the most important thing to generate at the moment of death. In any case, in meditation, something that has been developed over the centuries, there are techniques that through meditative processes are able to take a person to these deeper states of consciousness. Let's remember that feeling deeper states of consciousness is nothing special in itself. Because if I enter into a deeper state of consciousness with a feeling of jealousy, I'm imputing that jealousy into my subtle mind, and I'm familiarizing myself on a deeper level with jealousy. Instead, we should be able to generate deeper levels of consciousness with virtuous minds like love. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to do more than anything else. So in this phase of the 4 empowerments has this objective in just a few words. The first empowerment is called the vase initiation, and it's difficult to understand the meaning of the word initiation or empowerment. Why do we use this word? It's a little bit difficult to find a simple, objective answer, and so for that reason I'm not going to open that door now. In any case, that first initiation, the so-called vase initiation, is divided into 2. The first, it's the Vajra disciple, is divided into 5, into the bell of Amoghasiddhi, of the crown of Ratnasambhava, the initiation of the vase of Akshobhya, and the initiation of the Vajra of Amitabha, and the initiation of the name of Virochana. It's all written in the booklet, in the sadhana of self-healing. You can find that. These 5 initiations or empowerments, they're moments when, in the practice, we generate an identity that is even stronger and clearer based on the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So we start from our secret chakra, Amoghasiddhi. Normally we recite Lama Tuyun Dorje Kyan. Lama means Guru, Tuyun Dorje is Amoghasiddhi. Oh, Guru Buddha, Amoghasiddhi. Kyan means please, please listen to me. You all-knowing one. Kyan literally means no. But in Tibetan, it's a term that we use also for making a request. So we say Lama Tuyun Dorje Kyan. In this moment, we reinforce once more our identity with the qualities and the characteristics of Guru Buddha Amoghasiddhi. So if we had the ability, if we had an advanced level of practice, or when we did the 3 transformations at the beginning, we already generated an identity. The term that's used is divine pride. If we had an identity based on our qualities, then we wouldn't need to purify anything. We would only need to focus our attention on the qualities of each Buddha. But given that most of us do not have that ability, and as we do the practice, we need to remind ourselves more than once to disconnect from certain aspects of ourselves and connect with others, eliminate ordinary appearance and generate what's called divine pride. And in the case of Buddha Amoghasiddhi, we do the Garuda Mudra at our secret chakra. And as we're doing the Garuda chakra, we imagine that in front of us there is Guru Buddha, and at his secret chakra there is Buddha Amoghasiddhi. Guru Buddha, he rings the bell, and from the sound of the bell generates in us a new sense of new bliss and emptiness. So hearing the bell, that sound generates a feeling of bliss through which we perceive the nature of everything, its lack of inherent existence, the so-called emptiness, and that experience of new bliss and emptiness through that condition of the bell of Amoghasiddhi purifies the negativities that are related to the secret chakra. So, as we're in this part of the mudra, we receive the blessings from Guru Buddha Amoghasiddhi, who plays the bell, and that's the condition, and through that we generate this feeling of new bliss and emptiness. It's as if in that state there's no room for fear, there's no room for uncertainty, there's no room for all the sicknesses that are related to the secret chakra. So we somehow, when we purify in this case, it's different than taking something that is there and throwing it out and putting something positive in that will then naturally eradicate what is negative. So in this case, it's explained in many times during the teachings that the only way to eradicate a mental defilement, we need to generate its antidote. If I can't take anger and throw it away, I need to generate love. And in this case, this inner sensation of bliss and emptiness, without going into details now, fills up our body and mind, and by doing that, it eliminates the negativities and the symbolism that's used. So our mental defilements, our negativities are represented by specific animals. In other contexts, we use animals to represent our qualities. I say this because we have nothing against any animal. It's happened that in Brazil, for example, doing the practice of making peace with the environment, these environmentalists were saying that we had something against animals. No, there's nothing against any animals. It's mere symbolism, and there's a positive aspect to it, a negative aspect of it too. So in this case, we eliminate from our secret chakra through the power of bliss and emptiness. With the form of Garuda birds that are similar to eagles, we eliminate mostly our fear, our jealousy, and envy. The Garuda represents this because he's the king of the skies, and being the king of the skies, he's afraid of losing power and envies what others have because he's actually afraid of losing his power. So this is a characteristic that we're using from this animal. So we imagine all these negativities like fear, uncertainty, doubt, jealousy, envy. And when we exhale, we eliminate all of these negativities. Together with that, all the sicknesses on on a coarse, subtle, and very subtle level, they're also eliminated together. And then we inhale. We receive from Buddha Amoghasiddhi, from the secret chakra of Guru Buddha, lights and nectars, green in color, that fill up our entire body, that actually revitalize our qualities. So we connect with Guru Buddha at our secret chakra, and we recognize ourselves, these qualities of self-esteem, our qualities, our own resources, our ability to rejoice, to be happy for the happiness of others. We connect and we identify ourselves strongly with these characteristics of Amoghasiddhi. And then when we do it together with Amoghasiddhi, there's Samayatara. So there's this characteristic, the special characteristic of action, this ability to act, to realize the wrathful power, the power of opposition that I talked about before. There's also the aggregate of the compositional factors and the element of wind, just completely transformed. And we identify ourselves with this state. And as we identify it with this state of Buddha Amoghasiddhi and Samayatara, we recite the mantra Om Amoghasiddhi Hum. And relative to the five great mothers, we do yam, 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 or we focus on the element of wind, yam, shuddhe, shuddhe, soha, so we purify the impurities of wind, and then yam, atikyana, atikiti, soha, where we revitalize the qualities of the element of wind. And then you can also add the mantra Oma Samaya, Oma Samaya Tara Hum. And so you can also add this the mantra of the Great Mother, in this case Oma Samaya Tara Hum. And then we go to our navel chakra, where we have Lama Rinchen Dorje Ken, where we ask for the blessings of Ratnasambhava and Great Mother Lochana, the Great Earth Mother, and we do the same passage. In this case, it's the initiation of the crown. So it's as if that crown is given to us, and there are 5 Dhyani Buddhas on our crown. It's given to us, put on our head, and from that moment, as we receive the crown, we feel this sense of new bliss and emptiness. We realize the emptiness with this mind of bliss, and it eliminates our negativities, especially those related to our navel chakra, in the form of dark yellow horses and dark smoke, mostly arrogance, miserliness. And in arrogance, there's also this need to compare ourselves, to see ourselves. So we have this feeling of superiority, but also a sense of inferiority. So material miserliness, spiritual miserliness, physical miserliness on any level, and all the sicknesses that are related to the navel chakra, they're completely purified and expelled. Then we inhale, we receive yellow light rays and nectar that fill up our body. They come from the navel of Guru Buddha, and the Ratnasambhava at Guru Buddha's navel, and these light rays and nectars fill up our bodies, and we identify ourselves with the qualities of Ratnasambhava, the generosity of giving materially, of giving protection and love, giving the Dharma. The aggregate of sensation is pure. We have the wisdom of equanimity that is fully developed, our generosity and humbleness, and the element earth is completely purified. And then we go chakra to chakra, and then the heart chakra through Akshobhya is realized through the vase empowerment. It's given to us is through water. So either water is sprinkled on us, or the vase is actually placed on our head. So the sprinkling of the water, or this water and nectar can also be poured over our heads, generating again this feeling of new bliss and emptiness, purifying all negativities related to our heart chakra, especially purifying mostly anger, hatred, resentment, sadness, impatience, nervousness, inner instability. These are negativities that are the ones that are mostly eliminated in the form of dark snakes and black snakes and smoke. And then we receive the blessings in the form of blue light and nectar, and we connect with the qualities of love and compassion, the aggregate of pure consciousness, the wisdom of Dharma Dhatu is totally free from all conflict of attraction and aversion. Patience we generate, and then I'm going quickly here because we have many things to see. At our throat chakra, there's Amitabha and the fire mother, Pandavarsina, Lama Dorjiken. At this point, we receive the Vajra initiation. We imagine that Guru Buddha, it's like he puts the Vajra on our head, and as that object touches our head, that's what generates this feeling of new bliss and emptiness, through which we realize the qualities of we realize new bliss and emptiness, and we are able to eliminate through the form of red hens, dark smoke. We eliminate dissatisfaction, unlimited desire, the lack of concentration, distractions, discernment, incorrect discernment, and all sicknesses related to our speech. We eliminate all these negativities and sicknesses related to our throat chakra. Then we inhale. We receive the blessings in the form of red light rays and nectar that revitalize our qualities, and we recognize ourselves. We identify ourselves through the qualities of Amitabha and the great fire mother, Pandavarsina. So we develop concentration. We identify ourselves. We identify ourselves with a pure and healthy speech, and our aggregate of discernment is also in a pure state, and also the wisdom of discernment, our ability to see and perceive the specific aspects of everything. We talked about this at the first day of teachings. At this point, we do the mantra Oma Amitabha Hum, and then with the various elements. In this case, it would be for the fire, Ram 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 Ram, Ram Ho Shude Shude Soha, Ram Ho Atikyana Atikiti Soha. So we're purifying the element fire. We're revitalizing our fire element, and then at our crown, we do Lama Nanse Dorje Kyan, and we ask for the blessings of Buddha Virochana and the great Space Mother. And at this point, we do the Garuda Mudra, and we imagine that we're receiving the name empowerment, where Buddha Virochana gives us our name, which can be, your name is Virochana, your name is Amitabha, you are Akshobhya, your name is Ratnasambhava, or your name is Amoghasiddhi. This because, let me try to summarize. It's said in the teachings, that Buddhist teachings, when a practitioner follows his path, once he develops his qualities as maximum potential, the so-called enlightenment, one does it through, or one gives emphasis to one of the qualities, to the qualities of one of the five Dhyani Buddhas. All the qualities develop simultaneously, but one is given more importance, more emphasis. So all the qualities develop, but there's one that is predominant. Maybe someone can have predominantly wisdom or generosity or compassion, and that's why we say we will reach enlightenment in the form of one of the five Dhyani Buddhas. We will have one of these qualities, let's say, that is predominant. And there's also, when we talk about when we do practices and empowerments of highest yoga tantra, there's a moment where you drop a stick or you drop a flower in the middle of a mandala, and then you're told, oh, you're from the family of Amitabha, you're from the family of Akshobhya, which is beautiful. It says, oh, you are going to you're going to reach enlightenment in this form. So that's beautiful. But the other side of the coin is that message is saying your greatest mental defilement is this. If Amitabha came out, it would be desire, etc. So since we're doing the practice ourselves, let's imagine Guru Buddha, who gives us our tantric name, family name, and we can, according to our own intuition in that moment, and it can change over time, what is my strongest mental defilement? What is the quality that I need to develop? And based on that, we can feel that Guru Buddha is telling us, your name is Vairochana, Amitabha, Akshobhya, Ratnasambhava, or Amoghasiddhi. And when we feel the name, just hearing the name generates a feeling of new bliss and emptiness that thus purifies all the negativities that are related to our crown chakra in the form of black pigs, dark smoke, and dirt. Why the pig in this case? The pig has this characteristic that it eats anything, right? You just put anything in front of a pig and it'll eat it. And in our ignorance, I mean, how does ignorance work? We eat everything that appears as if it were real. And all the appearances that arise, even if they're inconsistent with what we know, if they seem objective, they seem independent, they seem etc. And so this is our ignorance, that we eat up without the correct wisdom. So we eliminate this ignorance, especially the wrong view of reality. We eliminate the lack of inner space, and all sicknesses that are related to the crown chakra in this form of black pigs, dark smoke, and dirt. And then we inhale. We receive the blessings in the form of white light rays and nectar that fill up our body, revitalizing our qualities. And then we identify with the qualities, which are wisdom, harmony among all phenomena, that comes from the coherence with reality, the consistency, and this brings a tremendous amount of infinite inner space. We develop the pure aggregate of form and the wisdom, the mirror-like wisdom, and we identify with the state of Vairochana. We recite the mantra Om Vairochana, Om Avairochana Hum, and we revitalize also our space element. Are you following up to here? As we do this, what we're doing is we're establishing and reinforcing an identity based on each of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. And if you remember well, it's what we've been talking about from day 1. Even there, when we're at the beginning, when we're generating our motivation, it's important for us to allow ourselves and to imagine ourselves as a being of peace and love. And in this moment, it's not, oh, how beautiful it would be if. No, I'm using all my potential, all my concentration, all my visualization power to feel I am. And in this moment, I'm not visualizing Buddha Amoghasiddhi. No, I am Buddha Amoghasiddhi. I am Ratnasambhava. I am Akshobhya. I am Amitabha. I am Vairochana. And not I am divinities. No, what does it mean to be Akshobhya? I am the aggregate, I am the pure aggregate of consciousness. I feel love, patience, compassion for each of, like this, for each of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. We identify ourselves strongly with their qualities. We can add other things, but I think that we'll just leave this standard explanation. Having done that, we conclude with what's called the initiation of the Vajra disciple, and now we move on to the initiation of the Vajra master. And so there's nothing to recite. All we need to do is make the hugging mudra. The hugging mudra. Why do we say why do the middle fingers and the ring fingers touch our thumbs? Because at this moment we're imagining that we're holding these 2 objects. We're holding Vajra and bell. So what is this hugging mudra? It's method, male energy, and wisdom, female energy, bliss and emptiness. And when we do the hugging mudra, we visualize that in an instant, it's almost as if we dissolve into light and then reappear. And we appear in the aspect of what's called Buddha Vajradhara, blue in color. The body is blue in color. We have 2 arms, and we're in the hugging mudra, and this represents the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. We're in union with the mother. Vajradhatu Ishvari. It's the mother of absolute space, and we imagine that we're in this state. But more than the external aspect that we should visualize is our inner feeling, that inner experience. In that inner experience, I am the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas in union with the 5 Great Mothers. And we allow ourselves to feel that my 5 aggregates are pure, my aggregates are pure, and so I am pure. It's almost as if in that first phase of the 5 chakras, we're generating the basis. And in the initiation of the Vajra Master is the imputation of the name I am, the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. I am all of those qualities put together, where it is no longer a listing of characteristics, but it's actually uniting all of those characteristics, all of those qualities in one. I don't know if that's clear. So we generate this state of this identity where we recognize on a deep level in the union of all those qualities, where each one adds to the other, it becomes one whole thing. So method and wisdom, every aspect of satisfaction, concentration, love, compassion, stability, generosity, humbleness, the power of realization, the four the four holy actions, plus the union of the four actions. I'm the union of all of this, and we can stay as long as we can. And we stay with this identity. And there's also an external symbolism. We can imagine that we are seated on a throne upheld by 8 great lions holding Bel and Vajra. These all symbols showing that we have reached Buddhahood. But for me, the most important thing, I mean, maybe we don't connect very strongly to this kind of symbolism in our own culture. The fundamental point instead is to generate this identity that is connected to the identity, to the qualities of the Dhyani Buddhas in union with the Great Mothers. I am. And in this, it's the moment where we generate this identity of the generation of the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and the union of the Great Mothers, where you say, I am this union. If you want to recite something, I saw Lama Ganshin write, he would actually, if you want to recite something, as Lama Ganshin used to do, he would say, I, in an instant, I arise in the form of Guru Buddha Vajradhara, with holding Vajra and Bell with the hugging mudra, which is, you can see behind me, above Buddha Akshobhya, where there's also Mamaki. They're above in the morning, in the middle. I think in the middle, I'm just remembering. So in the middle, there's Buddha Vajradhara, and then you can see to the right is Manjushri, and then Buddha Maitreya, and then to the left there's Nagarjuna and Asanga. These are at the center of everything. There's Vajradhara, the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, and Manjushri and Maitreya. Manjushri gives emphasis to the lineage of wisdom, and Maitreya is the lineage that gives emphasis to the method. Nagarjuna gave these teachings, giving emphasis to wisdom, and Maitreya gives emphasis to the method. And that's why they are represented here in the center of our temple. So we imagine ourselves as Guru Buddha Vajradhara. As we imagine ourselves as Buddha Vajradhara, but not just as an aspect like going dressing up for carnival. And here I am with my Vajra and belt. No, it's not that I see myself as Vajradhara. I am Vajradhara. It's very different. And in this I am, I need to be clear about who Vajradhara is to feel that I am Vajradhara. So we're simulating as an inner experience what it means to be a Buddha. So the external appearance is only to remind us of what that inner experience is supposed to be. So the more clear the more familiar we are with the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, the clearer our understanding of Vajradhara is. So in that state, we can then see the other 3 empowerments. So we take that state of being from a gross level to a subtle level and to a very subtle level. So this is the moment let's say this is the apex of the practice. Let's say the most beautiful part of the practice. So that beautiful mind needs to be taken to a subtle and very subtle level, and the objective is to take that mind to a very subtle level of consciousness. So the entire practice has led up to this. So we started with, I want to be a Buddha to help other beings, and gradually we went along the path, developing the various qualities, and here this has all led to this moment. Now we need to bring that experience that is more conceptual, more gross, we need to bring it more deeply. And so here we talk about the secret initiation, the wisdom initiation or empowerment, and the word empowerment. There are different ways of explaining these empowerments, and I will give an explanation that I'll give you an explanation based on how Lama Genshin explained it in self-healing, and an explanation that is not too superficial nor too elaborate, but you can see that it's quite advanced at this point. Usually only the symbolism is explained, and that symbolism is not easy to understand. So let's just get right to the point. From this moment on, until the word empowerment, the whole practice takes place within the central channel. So intention, the intensity of our energy, the direction that we're giving, all of our attention is within our central channel. So the better the better we do this practice, the less distracted we are. We're concentrated only on our central channel. There's not that much to visualize our arms, our legs. There aren't any specific Buddhas or chakras. No, we have only our central channel. So, to explain this well, first we need to take a short break, actually, to insert some fundamental ideas, because to understand self-healing well, it's really quite advanced. So we need some puzzle pieces that have already been prepared. And when we talk about the anatomy of our subtle body, our subtle body is made up of channels, winds, and drops. They're like, the channels are like energy channels. The most important one is our central channel. The winds is the prana that we talked about before, and the drops, bindu in Sanskrit. This is a kind of energy that have a physical component. Remember that the subtle body is also physical. It's not just energetic. So there are physical aspects, but normally we say that there are aspects of the body that cannot be perceived by the naked eye. So these part of the subtle body, they're like substances that are strongly connected to our emotional states. There are two main substances, traditionally called white bodhicitta and red bodhicitta. The white bodhicitta is the substance that comes from our Father, and it's the essence of the father's sperm, and the red bodhicitta is the essence of the mother's egg. ovum. So the place that these two substances where they reside, the white bodhicitta that is of a fresh, cool nature is at our crown, and instead the red bodhicitta that is the nature of heat resides and that resides three fingers under our navel. We also call the red bodhicitta Kundalini energy. When these two energies melt and they travel through our central channel, they generate a state of pleasure, of bliss. And as we've said before, when we experience pleasure naturally, the person goes to a deeper state of consciousness. And when this happens, it's quite a deep experience. So the secret initiation, the secret empowerment is where we generate a state of bliss through which we maintain the perception of the lack of inherent existence together with our ever present love and compassion. This experience of I am Vajradhara, that is present, and we take it to a deeper level. So at the beginning, we visualize that from our crown chakra, that white bodhicitta melts. And if we do the practice more slowly, we recite Om Ahum, and with Om Ahum we bless the white bodhicitta that melts, and we imagine that as the white bodhicitta melts and it goes down throughout our central channel. Remember we did yesterday Ayam Ram Lambam, as it goes into the other channels, and as it melts down, our level of bliss increases. From our crown to our throat, we feel pleasure. From our throat to our heart, we feel great pleasure. And from our heart to our navel is supreme pleasure. And from the navel to our secret chakra is a spontaneous pleasure or bliss. It's like a crescendo of pleasure that increases from each level. It's almost like at the beginning there's when the pleasure begins at the starts, it's almost conceptual. Then as that pleasure increases, it gets greater and greater, and one has no more control over it. And it's said that he experiences that on a non-conceptual level. He actually experiences. At the beginning, one is not able to control oneself. And it's said, for example, in some contexts, where there were practitioners who are training in these states of bliss, it's normal at that moment to have like jerking movements, as if the body is not able to contain that level of bliss. And as one gets used to these levels of bliss, one is able to feel it, to experience it without having those kinds of reactions. So here we have this bliss that just fills up every part of our being. In that state of bliss, together with love, we realize that everything that exists, everything that appears to us, including ourselves, is empty of inherent existence, empty of objective existence. We do this with the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. And maybe people ask, why the mantra of Chenrezig, the Buddha of compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum, in addition to being the mantra of Buddha Chenrezig Avalokiteshvara, it's said that it's the mantra that contains the entire essence to the path to enlightenment, the essence of the path to enlightenment. When I told you that first day that I showed the practice to my master in Tibet, at this point, the master, who's the abbot of Tashilhunpa, said to me, he said, now I understand why Om Mani Padme Hum is the essence of all the teachings. How did Rinpoche think of this? It's incredible. And it's amazing how the most obvious things are the hardest things to see. So, Om Mani Padme Hum, let's try to do a literal explanation or translation. Om, body, speech, and mind, as we've said before. Mani means jewel. Peme or Padme means lotus flower. Hum is the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. It means the mind in the enlightened state. The pure mind. Hum. Om, the being. Mani, Peme, Mani, jewel. Peme, lotus. Jewel, lotus. That makes reference to the male and female energy, method and wisdom, bliss and emptiness. Hum is that union. So it's the state of union, Sungjuk. It's the state of union of body and mind, this state of union between method and wisdom, this state of union of male and female, perfect union. I've talked about this many times. So this mantra is so simple. Oh, it's so explicit that almost one doesn't connect to it. But to talk about, to talk about male and female energy, more obvious than this, I don't know. But for many, many times, there are many other interpretations where the syllables make reference to one of the 6 realms, but the literal explanation is that. So when we do Om Mani Padme Hum, we clap our fingers. We start with our right hand in front and we go down little by little, and we imagine that with the mantra of Om Mani Padme Hum, we are regenerating this energy, this male energy that generates this deep feeling of bliss in a state of love and wisdom. And then we do Om Mani Padme Hum that goes up by snapping our fingers, and this Om Mani Padme Hum instead is the red bodhicitta, the female energy, of heat nature. And because it's heat, of course, it rises, the energy rises, and the direction we give to our hands, we start with the left in front, then inside, outside, inside, outside, and then the left one in front, and then we close, and left, and then the right outside, and then we start from the left and the right, and then again the left forward, and then we close with the right in front. This is Lama Ganshin described that this movement represents the energy winds, the subtle energy winds that bring the red bodhicitta up. These that are subtle energy winds have this movement, and he would joke and he would say he would say the energy in our head, like when we got to the mouth, he would say, he would just make jokes about, our mouth has this form because it's the energy winds that are taking us this way. But we imagine this warm energy that goes from it goes from the secret chakra to our navel, from our navel to our heart, from our heart to our throat, and from our heart to the crown chakra. And there's the same 4 levels of bliss that I talked about before, but now from below to above. And another time again, we imagine that we experience this feeling of bliss, and it fills up every part of our being, as if this constant increase, crescendo of bliss. And after this, we conclude this so-called secret empowerment. The meaning of the secret empowerment is to generate a state of bliss and emptiness through by way of the white and red bodhicitta. That's the essence of what is called the secret empowerment. Why is it called secret empowerment? One, because there are things that, you understand what you understand. Two, because symbolism is used that those who are not ready to understand, maybe they understand erroneously. Lama Genshin went right to the essence to show us what we need to imagine. But most of the initiations to talk about white bodhicitta and red bodhicitta that we have inside of us, an external symbolism is used of the sexual union, and so that's why it's called a secret empowerment, because if you're not ready for that, maybe that symbol can take you down the wrong path. So there are external symbols that help us generate that inner experience, but the empowerment is something that happens inside, and it doesn't have an external correspondence. So this is Sangwe Ma. This is the secret empowerment. And the next one is the wisdom empowerment. The wisdom empowerment, here too, there are different ways of visualizing it. Let's go right to the essence. At this moment of the practice, we imagine that all our subtle energy winds, all of our prana, all of our energy winds are absorbed into our central channel, and it all gets absorbed to our heart, to be precise, to be able to make the white bodhicitta goes down and the red bodhicitta goes up. Technically, what we need to do is to absorb our prana, these energy winds, into our central channel. So once the energy winds go into our central channel, that makes the white bodhicitta melt, and makes also the red bodhicitta go up. And when there's where that central channel was, where the energy winds go in, then there are no more knots at the channels, and these energies can flow. And this happens naturally during the process of death. The various winds get absorbed into the central channel, and then from above to below, from below to up, and the various side channels, they lose their force, and so the white bodhicitta is pushed, basically pushed from the winds that are coming down, and the red bodhicitta is also pushed up from the winds that are coming into the central channel. And after this, we imagine that all of our generated energy that is now within the central channel absorbs gradually within the central channel, goes towards the heart. In our heart, there is what is called the so-called indestructible drop. It's the essence of the union of the sperm and the ovum. It's said that the moment of conception, when the consciousness of the very subtle mind and body, it so the very subtle mind comes actually trapped into this indestructible drop, like a kind of nutshell, and there's the energy of the white bodhicitta of the father and the energy of the red bodhicitta of the mother, and until death, that indestructible drop will not open, and it's only at death. It's only at death that the indestructible drop opens and sets free, if you will, the very subtle mind and body. So we need to access that state, and the only way to access that state is to make it to make it obvious, evident. We need to take away all the other distractions so the gross level ceases, the subtle level ceases, and there is nothing other than the very subtle. In the empowerment of the wisdom empowerment, we absorb everything into our hearts. We imagine the white energy and the white and red energy of the father and the mother. They unite at the crown, and then at our throat, and they move to the heart, and then from our secret chakra they absorb to our navel, and then from the navel to the heart, and then from the throat down to the heart, from the navel to the heart, and they absorb completely at the heart, taking us to a most subtle state of consciousness, and there are no more conceptions, and there's no more attraction, there's no more aversion. It's even the emotional parts of our being are no longer there. They have ceased. There's only bliss and bliss and the bliss and wisdom. So that at this point we do Om Mahasukha Hum, Om, body, speech, and mind. So it's, I am the union of the great bliss. So Om Maha means big, Sukha is bliss, and Hum. So we do Om Maha Sukha Hum to each one of the chakras, and as we do this, we imagine that this energy that goes deeper and deeper. I like to imagine, if we had 4 arms, we would do first our crown chakra and our secret chakra at the same time, and our throat chakra and our navel chakra at the same time, and then at our heart chakra, because that's the meeting. But we have only 2 arms, so either we do like this, which seems a little strange. Instead, that's why we do first to our crown, and then our throat, then down to our secret chakra, and our navel, and at the end, our heart. And when we get to our heart chakra, we imagine that the absorption of all the winds into our heart generates the state of bliss even stronger. We're absolutely moved by love and compassion, and we are clear. We clearly feeling the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena. So that state of Ajadara is even clearer. In the natural process of death, once you get to that point, it's almost as if everything turns off. It's called the black near attainment, where there's total darkness, where there's no more gross mind, or not even a subtle mind or subtle body. And for an instant, it's almost as if there's nothing, total void. And from this state, our very subtle body and mind, so this is the moment when the indestructible drop turns over. So normally, so it's the white bodhicitta on top, and the red one on top, and so, and then it turns over the, so it makes this movement. I'm not actually able to do it with my hands, but it just turns over, and when it turns over, that's when the black near attainment vision happens. It's almost like a state of non-consciousness, and here we're simulating it. We simulate this in the practice of self-healing, in the wisdom empowerment, almost like blackout. And then the word empowerment comes. It's called the word empowerment because it goes beyond words. And in this moment, what happens in this natural process of death is that the undestructible drop opens up, and the very subtle mind and body, just before leaving our body, there's a moment that can last, depending on the ability of the practitioner. It's a moment where the very subtle mind becomes self-evident, because there's no subtle mind or body, or gross mind or body. We are only self-aware, self-conscious of our of that very subtle being. That state is called the clear light. It's like at a certain point, it's like after a dark night without the moon, the first rays of dawn appear. That's the very subtle mind together with the very subtle body that start to become self-evident, until it becomes so clear and so full that it becomes the moment of the clear light. The word empowerment that we do by putting our right hand, putting our thumb at the base of our ring finger, and our left also, our left is in the Vajra fist, with our thumb at the base of the ring finger, but our hand closed. There, it seems on a superficial level, it's a moment to dedicate, but when we recite Om Bishwa Shanti Hum, on a superficial level, it's a dedication for peace, but on a deeper level, Om Bishwa Shanti Hum, for the power, by the power of the truth, peace and bliss forever. Om Bishwa. So, what is the truth? The truth is that everything exists in interdependent way. So through the power of union of love and interdependence, peace and joy now and forever. So peace is a synonym for emptiness, joy, bliss. So by the power of the truth, the union of bliss and emptiness, the state of Vajradhara, now and forever. So in this moment of the practice, the initiation, the word initiation, is when it goes beyond words, actually. It's the experience, a non-conceptual experience on a very subtle level, where one identifies himself in this state of bliss and emptiness on a very subtle level. The term that is used, without getting into too many details, but if you like to know, it's the union of clear light and illusory body. The clear light is the very subtle body, and the illusory body is the very subtle body. That one identifies himself as the state in a pure state on a very subtle level. So what is the actual word empowerment? Is Buddhahood, is reaching enlightenment. actually reach is that the actual word empowerment would be reaching enlightenment, Buddhahood. So in this moment of the practice, what are we doing? What are we simulating? We generated this identity by Vajradhara with the five. Um, um, we generated an identity based on the five Dhyani Buddhas, and then that same identity on a very subtle level, the level of the clear light, and we stay in that space, and we are simulating to being a Buddha on the deepest level possible. And here we think to be able to benefit others, I can't stay in this. I can't stay in this very subtle state. I need to show. I need to. Um, I need to manifest myself on a more gross level. And that here we're getting to the last part of the practice where we recite actually Lama Konchon Sula Kyapsuchi, Ranila Setune Sunichu, etc. So remember that the self-healing, when we get to Lama Konchon Sula Kyapsuchi, this is the beginning of the conclusion. We're generating ourselves as the divinity during in between sessions. So what I'm doing is I'm making a bridge between my meditation and what I'm going to do after my meditation. So because the main meditation is that state of bliss and emptiness. And on a deeper level, to be able to interact with others, I need to arise with a gross body. I need to manifest again, and I put my attention. I manifest from more gross level. I see the environment around. I take refuge in the three jewels. I visualize myself as a pure being, a balanced being, holding a vajra and bell, representing that I uphold method and wisdom, and I have the commitment to help all beings through my interactions, through generosity, morality, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom through a virtuous conduct. And so I manifest myself on a gross level with the commitment of being at service of others and to never separate myself from love and wisdom and to interact with all beings. Through a positive interdependence. And with this, we conclude the practice. In just a few words, the practice of self-healing, like the sadhana of Yamantaka, Guya Samadra, Vajrayogini, and all the other sadhanas of the highest yoga tantra that I know, it's a process of starting from where we are, simulating the path towards enlightenment, and to simulating at the end what a Buddha does. A Buddha manifests himself to help others. So we, coming back to our ordinary appearance in the world surrounding us. To conclude, using the example that we used at the beginning, self-healing is a map that was kindly given to us by Lama Ganchen Rinpoche, and we need to gradually walk along this path, remembering that the path and the map, there are two different things. The map shows us the path, but it's not the actual path. We need the map, though. And then, so as we look at the map, we also need to walk, and then we look back at the map, and so we're able to, little by little, take the steps in the right direction. What's really beautiful is that these various passages, even if one doesn't actually reach them, they have many levels of benefit. One is, for example, the 4 empowerments, for example, is in a wonderful preparation for our own death, because it's a simulation of death itself. There's the part of identifying ourselves with our purities. There are many marvelous aspects, but it's a complete cycle where one starts from where he is, one simulates everything until enlightenment, and then one reappears to benefit others. Now, to conclude, actually, there's never a conclusion. There's always more to see. But I mean, how can we practice this, and how can we practice seriously? First of all, we need constancy. I'm sorry. It's not enough to do it once. Second thing, I don't see that we all have all day, every day. I don't know how many of you have the possibility in the time and the ability to dedicate yourselves 12 hours a day to the practice of the practice of self-healing, which would be like doing the practice 4 times a day. When you do a retreat, for example, what do you do during a meditation retreat? It's just in a few words, you would do the self-healing practice 4 times a day. Before dawn, after breakfast, after lunch, and then after dinner, and then before dinner and then after dinner. This would be the process of doing a retreat. Imagine someone who does the retreat of a month, or 3 months, a year, 3 years, where you do this process and you repeat it over and over again for about 12 hours a day for a long period of the year. I mean, that would do something, wouldn't it? I mean, because one thing is doing the practice every once in a while. Another thing is allowing the space for things to move inside of us. I recommend the following. Do the practice possibly once a day. If it's not possible to do it once a day, at least once a week. In 1 year, we have 52 weeks, right? So, this is nice also to make a calendar. So like the first day, I put emphasis on what part of the practice? On the meditation on my breath. The first part of the preliminary practices. If you do the practice every day, my advice is that first week would be to give emphasis on our breath. You take your time, you concentrate on the various techniques of breathing techniques. I better my concentration. I do the 9-round breathing exercises, and the rest of the practice, the rest of the preliminary practices, and then the main practice until the dedications. Then at that point you can do the other parts more quickly without stopping, and then the second week you can do the breathing exercise a little bit more quickly, and then you stay longer on your generation of motivation. So you meditate on the 4 noble truths. You take refuge. You dedicate yourself to that part, and then the rest of the practice you can do without stopping. That third week, you breathe and refuge a little more quickly, and now we focus on the generation of bodhicitta. We accumulate that 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half an hour just on that part, and we go on like this week by week. We put emphasis on a different part of the practice. So after this, then we invite Guru Buddha, and then we do the 7 limb prayers, and then we ask for blessings, and then we start with, for example, in the part of blessings, we can dedicate a week where our emphasis is Oma Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum, and the light rays that come into our chakras, and the Guru Yoga, and then we purify the elements, and we put emphasis on that, and we like this we go ahead until we get all the way till the dedications. And I don't know how many weeks actually that'll take. When we get to the end, do you think, oh, finally I'm done? No, you start again from the beginning. And as you do this, you create more and more familiarity with the practice. And then at a certain point, one can actually can stop at places where one feels most need or benefit, because it's important to do the practice not as a kind of like or not with to make it just doing something automatically where you're just reciting. I mean, it's wonderful to recite, but if I'm reciting, I'm familiarizing myself with recitation. If I visualize, I'm familiarizing myself with visualization. If I'm able to generate these states of consciousness, that's what I'm familiarizing myself with, and that's our objective. Another fundamental point is that when I'm not doing the practice of self-healing, in my daily interactions, I try to maintain the awareness of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. I try to have a conduct that is consistent with the qualities of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Once I start feeling angry, Oma Akshobhya Hum, and I recall stability and patience, and we bring those qualities to our daily life, and that becomes a tool that accompanies us in every aspect. There's something I'd like to teach, and I've already taken the commitment to do it. Repeating that commitment to reinforce it. It's how to practice between sessions, which means how to practice, how to wake up, how to get dressed, how to wash oneself, how to eat, etc., etc. They're different, and they're quite simple things that help do our daily life in consistently or consistently with our practice. It's important for us to remember that it's not something like something where we say, "Oh, I've understood." No, it's a process that lasts a lifetime. As I said at the beginning, it's a process. It's a practice that accompanies us from the beginning, a practice that relaxes us, to a practice that takes us to enlightenment. So it's a long process. And like all sadhanas, like all practices, they work when you work them. So we need to sit down on our cushion, do the practice, not be afraid of doing it wrong. There are no negative side effects. You practice according to your own ability, but it should be done with faith, with determination. It should be done like we make the stone soup. There's this story. Monk who, after many years, who went to study in a monastery, one of the great monastic universities in central Tibet, he goes home and he had become a very learned monk, and his house was very far at the time. It's said he had to walk throughout many mountains, and he went to his mother. He hadn't seen her for 25 years, and he saw that she was quite thin and very poor. And she said how he asked how she was, and well, there was nothing at home. There was nothing to eat, and she said, he asked, "What do you eat?" I said, "Well, one time a master came by and he taught me how to make stone soup." And I said, and the monk asked how she was making it, and she said, "Well, I put the stone in the water and then I recite this mantra and it becomes a nourishing soup." And then he went to see, and actually, in the Kangyur, all the sutras of Buddha, there are two volumes, the two volumes dedicated to spells. Um, all kinds of spells, and there actually is one dedicated to stone soup. So he looked it up, and then he went to his mother and he said, "Oh, it exists, but you're reciting the mantra with the wrong pronunciation. Here, it's written here, the mantra should be recited like this." And so he teaches his mother the right pronunciation of the mantra, of the mantra. And then, so he goes somewhere else, and he came back a few weeks later, and she was very, very thin. He said, "What's wrong?" And she said, my soup is not coming anymore." And he understood that by telling his mother that she was pronouncing it wrong, she lost her faith in what she was doing. And then he said, "Oh, give me, let me check again." And he went back to his mother and he said, "I was wrong. Actually, what you were doing was the right way to do it. I was wrong. I read it wrongly." And she reacquired faith in herself. And there are many, many stories like this in India, for example. Among the various traditions, there were philosophical debates, and there were also there were debates about or competitions about magic. Um, um, One needed to stop the shadow of a bird on the ground. It's a practice where there's a kind of there's a dagger, a kind of wooden dagger, and one need to use a specific mantra and actually hold down the shadow. And there was a great learned man who was very expert in magic, and they were doing this kind of competition of magic spells. And at a certain point, this learned man said, this learned man, they said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm stopping the shadow." And this other one said, "No, well, that's not the right, that's not the mantra." And they lost his faith in himself, and so then came the expression, "Whether you say it kili kili or you say it kili kala, for me it's kili kili." So there's also the story of your nose looks like a Rudra, this master who's about to leave for a trip, and his disciples are all there in line to greet him, to say goodbye to him. And one disciple came running to him and says, "Please, master, tell me the mantra of my life, the practice of my life." And it wasn't the right moment. And the master, he just made a joke. He looked at him and he said, "Your nose looks like a Rudra." Rudra is the seed of a Radaksha. It's very porous seed that's used in India to make malas. To say that his nose was very porous. It was a joke. And he leaves, and then the master comes back it was a very, very long trip, and when he came back, he didn't see that disciple anymore, and he thought, oh, something must have happened. And one day, the master, he got sick, had a horrible, horrible sore throat with a tremendous amount of pus, and he couldn't get better. And one of his attendants said, there's a healer in the village. We should call him. And the master said, we've tried everything. Let's try that too. And then when he came, he thought, I know him. And then this one was very, very, very concentrated. He started, your nose looks like a Rudra, your nose looks like a Rudra. And remember that the master made the joke when he said, your nose looks like a Rudra. He did it in Sanskrit. I mean, if you were to say it in one's own spoken language, it would be difficult to understand that it was actually a transmission of a mantra. He heard it in Sanskrit and he really thought it was a mantra, but he actually recited that with so much faith that he actually developed healing powers. When the master understood that that was his disciple, he started laughing. He started laughing so hard that he was able to get rid of all the infection in his throat, and he was healed. That's another example. When we follow a practice, before we choose the practice, the path to follow, we need to look well. But once you start following, you need to follow it in the same way that you make sown soup. You need to do it in the same way you stop a bird's shadow. You need to do it in the same way that you you recite the mantra of your life. Of course, you need to listen and analyze and control it and check it, and once you've understood it and you see that it is without fault, you need to follow it, and then little by little that will bring results. As I said yesterday, the only reason why I feel like I should share all of this with you, share self-healing with you, is because I have a real faith in your abilities, your potential, everyone according to his own time. But there are two fundamental aspects along our path. Transparency and sincerity with ourselves. We shouldn't joke with ourselves. Constancy is important too. Because there's a moment where one can fall into this trap of being the disciple. It becomes more important to be the disciple that follows the Buddhist path, or the who is the good disciple. But we're not here to be good disciples, to be the first in the class. We're here to evolve, to put ourselves at the service of others, to help, to flower, to grow. That's the most important thing. And so this requires a process of sincerity with ourselves and effort, dedication, constancy. And at the end, we come back to our starting point. Why are we here? What is it that we want? If we have clarity, looking at the map, where we want to go, at this point, we need to really use that map and start walking. Now, this summer, in the month of July, 7, 8, and 9, we will do the days dedicated specifically to to the memory of Rinpoche. Every day of my life is dedicated to the memory of Rinpoche, but in those 3 days we will concentrate on various practices, etc. From the 10th to the 17th, in the program, there's a retreat of self-healing, or it won't be a moment of explanation, but a moment of practicing together. Maybe some kind of explanation here and there, but it's a moment of sitting down, meditating together. So if we want to have this opportunity of deepening our understanding, our relationship with the practice, I invite you to participate. As I said at the beginning, this weekend, which is Easter weekend, it represents this moment of passage. There's also the meaning of the beginning of springtime. It's the beginning of a cycle. Call it what you want. It's the beginning of a cycle. And with the practice of self-healing, we should put emphasis on looking at what qualities we want to develop and what we want to abandon. I invite you again to clarify what we want to cultivate, what we want to abandon. And if you have a very long list, start with only one. There's no hurry in doing them all. There's time. But at least we start with one. This is fundamental. Because otherwise what happens, we stay in the general, the generic, and life goes by. It's important to go to the specific, one step after the other, 1 year after the other. And like this, we actually walk the path. Now, to conclude, I'm sorry, I went further with my explanation, and then we also had the blessing, the blessing of the marriage, which was actually very auspicious. So now let's do the practice, but recite it quickly. Otherwise, we need about an hour and a half, and you need to go home. There are things to do. We will here. I mean, we'd be here all day. We'd be here all the time, but you have other commitments as well. So let's concentrate well. We sit in a comfortable position with our backs straight but not tense. Our shoulders are relaxed. Our eyes are slightly closed, looking downwards, and our mouth is relaxed. We are aware of our breath. We inhale light, bringing us to a state of peace, and we exhale dark smoke, eliminating any kind of tension that is in the body or the mind. We inhale and we exhale.
Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Triratnaya, Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonamla, Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi, Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam, Drola Pinchra Sangye Drubra Shua, Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonam, Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi, Dagi Jinso Gibe Son. Drola Pinchra Sangye Drubra Shua, Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonamla, Chancho Pardo Dani Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam. Drola Pinchra Sangye Drubra Shua, Simchen Tamchen Dewadan Deve Gyodan Dembra Gyurche, Simchen Tamche Dunga Dan Dunga Gi Gyut, Trawara Gyurche, Simchen Tamche Dunga Mepe Dewadan Midrewara Gyurche, Simchen Tamche Nyerinch, Nidan Drewe Tanyom La Nebra Gyurche, Simchen Tamche Lusim Gi Dunga Le Soshin, Trayun Lusim Dewadan Dembra Gyurche, Simchen Tamche NgalSo Topchin China Nuchu Kori Tanshin Tsangma Ne Gyurche, Simchen Tamche Dan Zambu Lingi Kendro Tat Tugun Dembra Gyurche, Tamche Duni Sashida Singma Laso Mepada Lati Tanyam Bendorie Ranshin Jambo Ne Gyurche, Hadami Chebeze Mosum Shamdan Yiki Tru Quinsan Chutrin Lana Namke Kanguen Kyab Gyurche, Omo Namo Bhagavate Bensa Sarva Pramadane Tathagataya Arahate Samya Sambuddhaya Tayata Om Benze Benze Ma Tetsa Benze Ma Vidya Benze Ma Bodhi Chitta Ma Bodhi Mandupa Sangramana Benze Sarva Karma Awar Vishodana Benze Svoha Kuncho Sumgi Demba Dan Sangye Danchan Chosin Tamcheki Chingi Labdan Soni Yonso Zobe Ngadan Chembodan Chuki Yinambra Tachin Samgimi Topki Tishini Tu Kyurchi Malu Simche Kungi Gungurchi Dude Pungche Mize Jumzela Ngona Maloya Chumden Korche Nediri Sheksuso Gosungube Gone Chatse Lo Ngoshayi Truchaba Malubu Tomene Sa Diktun Tamche Sha Kebra Gewa Namla Jeira Korwa Maton Bardo Lekshu Ne Drola Cheki Korlo Korwa Dashengenan Chancho Chembor Ngo Sashi Puki Chushi Medotra Lirablin Shini De Gemba De Sange Shindu Mikde Wargi Chopra Sho Yidam Guru Ratna Mindrala Kam Niryata Yami Locho Sambo Pagyo Trashipa Tuche Tempe Trinle Yarngoda Pege Drolo Zambe Zebrache Pande Lame Shabla Soa De Oma Guru Vajradara Suma Timu Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumatimu Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Om Guru Buddha Siddhi 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 Hum Eyam Ram Lam Bam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Yam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Ram Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Lam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Bama Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Eyam Ram Lam Bam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddha. pema changu, pamle pema changu, pamle pema serpo, pamle pema serpo, pamle pema ngompo, pamle pema ngompo, pamle pema marpo, pamle pema marpo, pamle pema carpo, pamle pema carpo. Om Ahum Tramari E Rama Bama Lama Ya Rile Natso Dorje Changur Ri Tramle Norbu Serpo Tram Hongle Dorje Ngombo Hong Ale Pema Marpo A Omle Korlo Karpo Yamle Lunki Changu Ya Lamle Saki Serpo Lam Bamle Chuki Karpo Bama Ramle Meki Marpo Ram Ele Namki Ngompo Om Korlo Nanse Dorje Apema Che Dorje Hun Dorje Mikyo Dorje Trama Norbu Rinchun Dorje Re Natso Dorje Tuyun Dorje Ele Namki Chungwa Yum Kyango Ramle Namki Chungwa Yum Kyamar Bamle Chuki Chungwa Yum Kyankar Lamle Saki Chungwa Yum Kyanser Yamle Lunki Chungwa Yum Kyang Chang Lama Tunyo Dorje Kin Moga Siddhi Hong Om Moga Siddhi Hong Om Moga Siddhi Hong Om Moga Siddhi Hong Om Moga Siddhi Hong Yama 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 Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Yam Ho Atish Kyana Atish Titri Svoha Lama Rinchun Dorje Kin Om Ratna Sambhava Hong 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 Lama 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 Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha Lam Ho Atish Kyana Atish Titi Svoha Lama Mikyo Dorje Kin shobya ahom. Bama 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 bam ho shuddhe shuddhe svoha. Bam ho atishkyana atishtiti svoha. Lama chodorje kin. Om Amitabham, Om Amitabham, Om Amitabham, Om Amitabham, Om Amitabham. Rama 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 Ram Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha. Ram Ho Atishkyana Atishtiti Svoha. Lama Nangze Dorje Kin. Om Vairochana Hum, Om Vairochana Hum, Om Vairochana Hum, Om Vairochana Hum, Om Vairochana Hum. Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Svoha. Ho Atishkyana Atishtiti Svoha. Ranyi Kechige Dorje Chanto Kyo. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mahasukha 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 Om Vishwa Shanti Om. Lama Kuncho Sumla Kyapsu Chi Rangni Lase Dotril Sungne Che Donga Chosun Yercho Tada Dom Gecho Kundo Chishin Roden Chi Dorna Ditsu Namkra Gewetso Chinye Sakpa Tei Nyurtuda Norbo Panzo Shambal Harkene Lame lamge rimba tarchin sho, nimo dele tsendele, nime kuyan delekshin, ninsen takto delekpe, kuncho sumke chingelo, kuncho sumke ngodrutso, kuncho sumke trashisho.
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and spring all the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
In this way, we conclude these 3-day teachings. I'd like to thank the presence of each one of you. In Tibetan, we say Tudang Kumpal. It's the way that the practitioners say goodbye. Or normally, when two people greet, they say, "Hi, how are you?" But among practitioners, you say Tudang Kumpal, which means it's both a question but also a well-being. More than how are you, it's how is your practice evolving. Tukdang makes reference to meditation, and Kumpal means how is evolving, how is it coming, how is your practice coming. So this is a greeting among practitioners, and we'll have many occasions to practice together. And as we're going towards summer, there are many other opportunities in the program.
Shinto mikte ulwarki drokunam da shingla chöpar shoje tsulame kotserapten chinam karatingale chochurge padang lo santempe drowe sasumgi drowe munsela taktu negyurche dam guru ratna mendral kam niryatayami kyewa kundu yanda lama da drame cheki pela longche chin sadan lamge yunte rabzone dorje change kopa nyurtov sho nimudele tsendele nime kuyan delekshi ninsen takto delekpe kuncho sumke chingelob kuncho sumke ngodrotso kuncho sumke trashisho mime tserwe terchen chen resi drime kempe wampo champe lya
Thank you, everyone.